Hello, thank you. I'm very honored to be here today and to share some thoughts with you. So I present CSEM here at this event and will try to answer a question about cyber resilience. Should we consider it as a must for designs of future IoT solutions? So just to start with, I work part of the business unit in CSEM that works on microelectronics, and its DNA, I would say, we can summarize it in 3 words. It's small, precise, complex, and low power. So this is really the keywords where when we are building technologies with our industrial partners, we can concentrate on. And what's also interesting in this type of device is that it encompasses many capacities that are present in the CSEM, and it serves to do biometric readings through veins, blood veins. In terms of activities of CSEM, so we have a coverage from raw data to actionable information. So the idea is to have the full chain and information processing. That means from the collection, that means the sensor, either monolithic or on silicon. Then on a component level, so by building system on chips and customized ASICs. Building also systems, hardware systems, complex devices, miniatures devices that also enable edge AI, and then also the transport components, designing customizable transport components to transfer all the information, and at the end, the processing of the AI on the cloud. So this is the full span of our activities, and our purpose is to build projects with our industrial partners to mature technologies, pieces of technology, so that they bring them to the market. So let's start with a few questions then. So everybody here is talking about connectivity, and there's a first interesting question in terms of cybersecurity. Do we really consider the real needs for connectivity when we are building solutions? So this is the first step where what we call the attack surface becomes really big. When a designer opens lots of protocols, lots of communication, and this has lots of consequence in terms of security, and it could be interpreted immediately in terms of cost, because afterwards you have to consider that you need to secure every piece of your software against such and such attack. So this is, for me, a very fundamental question when you are building the IoT solutions, is to consider really seriously the needs for certain type of connectivities. It's very dangerous to open everything, but it's also not business friendly to close everything. So it's kind of finding a situation right in the middle. And second point, and it's related also to the cost factor, is how can we shift the security paradigm? Because today, when we are building security solutions, what happens oftenly is that we have a security audit at the beginning, we're very happy with that, and then the products are put in the market, and nobody worries about what's happening on the market. And the product could be even broken in 1 or 2 years' time. We have a lot of time bombs that are put on the market, and at some point it will wake up. There will be a wake-up call, and chicken will come back home to roost. And the second question is related to this third question, which is very much more pragmatic, meaning that when you put an IoT solution on the market, we should consider the lifespan, and it's here the important factor, how to ensure the business continuity, because if you have any issue while building a solution, if we do not ensure the business continuity and we do not have the means to enforce this into our design at a lower cost, of course, because if the cost is high, the P&L will suffer afterwards. And finally, this summarizes the first three questions: how can we increase the sustainability of IT solutions? So let's start with the threats. How does it come? So last year, the number of threats increased by 50% weekly. This is a report from Checkpoint. This covers the whole IT world, something really happening. It's a trend. In terms of vulnerabilities, vulnerabilities are increasing. It's not 50% per year, but at least they are increasing. We have new 21,000 new security threats that appeared last year, according to the US database. And if we take almost all of the vulnerabilities that are rated on this database, on the CV details, we have more than 19,000 vulnerabilities that are rated as critical on the CVSS scale from 9 to 10. So that's make a lot of big issues. But you would tell me this is not a big issue. If everybody corrects or let's say upgrade its software, we shouldn't be having any problem. The problem is that almost nobody does it. Why? I'm saying that is the second chart that shows that almost that it's a very interesting one because it shows the percentage of attacks that are leveraging vulnerabilities per disclosure year. Meaning that we have here, we can go back, that 13% of the attacks that were done in 2021 use vulnerabilities that were published in 2010. So this means that we could have avoided this kind of situation. This is typically the case here. We see that the number of attacks that happened in 2021, it's like they exploited 1% of the vulnerabilities that appear in 21. 18% of them used vulnerabilities that appear in 2017. 4 years, that's a lot of time to correct things. So the issue here is that not only the attacks are increasing, or let's say the threats, the vulnerabilities are increasing, but also we have a big problem in software supply chain and the way we build our software. Meaning that we take pieces of software that contain at the building moment lots of vulnerabilities. And this will come back at some time and will explode and will create a situation, a crisis, possibly. Here I tried to rank the common security issues with a headline. It's a very interesting headline. There are many examples of attacks. You have attacks in the automotive sectors, on cameras, etc. So they make the headlines. But this one, I find it very interesting because there was an attack that was done on Philips Hue light bulbs, I would say connected light bulbs, that appeared like 4 years ago. But what we see in this headline in 2020, that this problem was not still corrected on all these light bulbs on the field. We still have the same problem because people have not upgraded to the firmware with the version 19, 35, and so on. So I try to rank here the number in terms of priority. What we see in terms of security issues is that, first and foremost, is that we have a big problem on unverified or outdated third-party software that we use in building IoT devices. And this is like you're creating your own problem from the start because there are no due diligence or no verification that is done at the R&D stage very early on in the process. Then we have, typically we can see it as the usage of outdated crypto or outdated security configurations. Then you have network or security misconfigurations and unfixed, because you have the CVE database that shows all the vulnerabilities that could be. This is a very public database that anyone could consult and see what kind of issues you have in any third-party or open-source software. And here, same example, you have unfixed and undetected software issues. Then we come to more fundamental issues here at this stage. So we came through, let's say, the obvious, the most common errors. Then we come afterwards to issues that are more fundamental, more on an architectural level, where you would find that are some unprotected assets, no access control or low access control. This is on a design level, and new bugs that are introduced during the development by developers. So really, if you would ask intuitively somebody in R&D, they would say, no, it's the developer's problem. They introduced the errors, they introduced the security vulnerabilities. Whereas what we see here, it's the opposite way around. It's a problem of process. It's not a problem of the developer himself or herself, but it's a problem of process in this company that enables this to happen. So, how does it translate? Is that cybersecurity is dead. So it's a bit provocative here. I selected this article, but why I try to translate here is that we have a common feeling about cybersecurity. We imagine cryptography, many complex concepts. It's very, let's say, very trendy, very attractive. But at the bottom line, it's not a problem of expertise, what we are facing today in developing IoT systems. The issue is that we don't have the factor of business continuity when we are considering this problem. The issue is there. It's not about having the best crypto algorithm configured in a product. It's about how do we ensure business continuity there. How does it translate? It means that what kind of response an IoT system would bring over the table in order to recover from a crisis, from a security issue. Then how do we build in-depth defenses into an IoT system? And third, how to monitor adversary behavior and how to reduce exposure to attacks. So it's something that's cyber resilience encompasses cybersecurity with on a much more deeper level, and also it considers the business in itself. Then, inspirations here. So, due to COVID crisis, something really interesting happened in the IT world, where a classical view happened. Generally, the IT world, everybody was relying on a VPN and some firewalls and say, okay, my IT is secure. And COVID crisis came in, and people worked from home, and everything fell apart. And let's say GAFAM introduced all of these concepts in order to circumvent all the security threats for people to work, to enable for people to work from home. So we have different concepts that were put on the field and that enabled business continuity during the COVID crisis while people working from home. And this encompasses the following concepts: user identification, user and machine authentication, check of policy compliance, device health, check of authorization policy, having authorization policies, and access control policies. It's very simple in itself. These concepts are not that complex, but when you scale them up, it becomes really complex. So, how do we build a sustainable IoT platform? It's a vision. It's not something, it's, let's say, a dream. It's what we are trying to accomplish is, first of all, building something very ultra-low power, possibly by removing the battery, having energy harvesting on it with new technology nodes. A platform that could be adaptive, with an extended lifetime, bringing out robustness, quality of service, and let's say future-proof. That means that's upgradable. Ultra-low impact, that's for the environment, with reduced bill of materials and repair-friendly, recycling-friendly. And at the bottom, we find the last point where we need it to be secure. The security should be built by default, not only by design, by default, something that should be there from the beginning. And lifetime secure, we take into consideration the life cycle of the IoT platform. Then, so from there, what we could propose from these inspirations and these elements, what could be a paradigm? This is a proposal. A paradigm shift for sustainable IoT is to focus on the global picture and not only on few elements. We cannot consider by saying, okay, my smart meter is secure. I have a secure element in my system. That's not enough. when considering cybersecurity, cyber resilience, one should consider the global picture, because when you consider global picture, it enables you to say, okay, my risk in that area is low, so I shouldn't be spending any money there. So there could be also economies there. Design security in a way that makes stakes very low for an attacker. And this is a very important principle where you shouldn't be creating from the beginning a high stake situation where an attacker would obtain a big prize by attacking a single point. It's about creating single points of failure, avoiding this kind of situation. And finally, developing resilience through risk distribution. It's the corollary of the second point, but it's mostly about managing your risk and distributing your risk, not concentrating your risk in a single point. Here we see an example of a project that CSEM had, a European project, where for the healthcare, where there was a question of, let's say, working with the distributed crypto and also with forward secrecy, where if a device was compromised, it would reconfigure itself and help to have new keys. Finally, so this is last slide. So the most important thing here is how to unlock the business potential, because cyber risk could become quickly a big risk for your business. So the idea is, how can we remove the obstacles? First of all, I would say one should target appropriately the security complexity, the security level. One shouldn't be putting a lot of money or putting a high level of security where one doesn't need it. It doesn't make sense. What's important is really to do it in an adaptive way. Second, design security in a way that do not create single points of failure. Stakes should be very low. There should be no prize for an attacker. Avoid this kind of situations. Resilient and sustainable IoT architectures, meaning that first and foremost, check the supply chain, check your software. In-depth security design, implementing controls, access controls, crypto, and implement also to avoid the human cost of verifying things manually. Automation is key also to resolve this problem. And finally, react appropriately when a situation happens. That's it for me. And in case I forgot to say it, sustainability implies cyber resilience. Thank you.